Good afternoon, everybody. It is 5:30 on Thursday, and I'm doing my weekly Q&A. Been off it for a few weeks after the From Dieting Roller Coaster to Peaceful Eating workshops that I did a good few weeks ago now, and launching my course. And then I just needed a week off or so. So I'm back, and it's lovely to be back and to be with you again. So if you are watching, let me know, because it's always nice to know who's there. But I have changed the time because of the course. It is on a few evenings in the week, and then I still have clients, so it's not. I can't do it at a better time for most people to be watching live. So this is the best that I can do to still have this facility, this offering for you. So, if you are just tuning in and you don't know me, I'm Vanya Fatidis from Peaceful Eating, where I help people come to a place of peace and ease with food and their bodies. And most weeks, I answer subscriber questions. And if you want to ask me a question, go ahead and pop it in. Go to peacefuleating.co.uk/ask. And you can ask me an anonymous question. And you can do that at any time. You can do it now, or you can do it live, or you can do it some other time. All right, so let me get on to this week's questions. I must apologize if you're the person who asked me a question about hunger signals. I accidentally deleted it before I copied it properly onto my text document, and I did read it, but I don't remember exactly the wording. So I'm really sorry if I am not answering your question well enough for you now, or I've misremembered what you actually asked. Please have another go. Send me another question, and I will do better. All right, so let's have a look at the questions I have today. All right, so the one that I messed up said something along the lines of, I heard someone say that they're sensitive to hunger. Do people have different sensitivities to hunger? Such an interesting question. And what I don't know from you is whether you mean that you feel hunger, that some people feel it in a more nuanced way than other people, or do you mean that feeling hungry impacts people differently? In that way, they're differently sensitive to hunger. So I will try to answer both of those questions. So yes, so hunger is a subjective feeling, right? It's impossible to know, for me to know how somebody else experiences hunger. And it's impossible for you to know how somebody else experiences hunger because it is subjective, and we can't jump into somebody else's skin and know how they experience hunger. So it's quite a difficult question to answer. But what I can say is that we have things which I call, or intuitive eating calls, attunement disruptors, which means that there are things that can get in the way of us recognizing these signals and recognizing the more gentle, subtle signals of hunger. So, what are these attunement disruptors? There would be uh, things like diet mentality. So, if you've got lots and lots and lots of worries and concerns about what, when, and how much to eat, it's going to be harder to really listen to and recognize your signals. If you've been dieting, then that can disrupt our ability to listen to recognize the nuances of hunger, because we tend to override our hunger when we're dieting, and then the body just doesn't want to waste energy on something that we're not paying attention to, so it'll just kind of blunt those signals. I think coffee can blunt hunger signals, stress, overdoing, busyness, overwhelm, so strong emotions can change how we are able to perceive these signals. So, yes, people have different ways of experiencing hunger, and there are things that can get in the way. Medication, illness, those sorts of things can make hunger signals more difficult to um, pick up. So, in terms of sensitivity as a response, like my husband, when I was just chatting, when we were having lunch, I was chatting about this question, and he said, "Yeah, I think you're more sensitive to hunger than me." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, when you're hungry, you really need to eat. Whereas when I'm hungry, it's okay. I can keep going. It doesn't bother me so much. It's not like it really gets in the way. So if he's doing something, he can maintain his focus. It's not so distracting. He will kind of eat when it's convenient. And he's somebody who has never dieted, has never sort of messed around with his food or sort of yeah, so he's never dieted and he's never had body image issues and all of that. So, um, you know, different people, yes, would have different, um, I suppose, need to or urgency around responding to hunger. Um, and that will come about because of our different experiences, plus our different physiology. So, yeah, people will have different experiences of that. So I hope that that is the question you're answering, and I hope that that helps. All right, here's another question. Oh, I see there's some people watching. So say hello to me. I want to know who you are. Thank you. All right. I've made peace with food, says this person, but I still want to do something about my belly. Is it possible to diet now to get rid of my belly, or even to do more exercise to try to change it without losing my peace with food? So thank you for this question, and congratulations on the work that you've done so far in terms of making peace with food. So, um, and I'm glad you asked this question because I think this is something that a lot of people think about. Either people say to me, oh, they want to lose weight first and then come and make peace with food. Or they ask me the question, well, now I'm feeling so much better and I know what I need to do and I know that I mustn't restrict and I need to, feed myself and not go hungry and all of that. But can I now, sort of cut out the carbs or cut down on the sugar and all of that so that I can do something about my belly? Well, the first thing I want to say is that what I would like for you is that you could accept your belly as it is and just let your belly be your belly. If you're at a place where you're at peace with food and things feel quite balanced, then if you're going to start uh, controlling food, reducing foods, or cutting things out using your decision making process in your brain rather than listening to your body, then you're going to just trip yourself up and get straight back into a diet mentality way of thinking and behaving, and just get back onto that roller coaster um, where you might find that you're then binging or overcompensating for certain things, and then all the thoughts start coming back around food. So, you know, trying to control food in a way that you can then try to control your body is going to disturb the peace that you have worked so hard to create. So I would say I don't recommend that. Um, and in terms of exercise, you can't control if you're going to do, tummy crunches or whatever. Yeah, it's a great idea to keep our strength, and to do what we need to do so that as we get older, we don't lose too much muscle tone. Those sorts of things are important so that we can stay mobile, so that we can do the things we want to do as we're getting older. But you can do as many tummy crunches as you like. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a six pack tummy, right? It just doesn't. You can't equally if you were to go back and diet, you couldn't choose where you want that weight loss to be. I just want to be on my tummy. I don't want to lose it on other parts of my body, but I want to lose it on my tummy. You don't get to make those choices. So um, I would always come back to eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied most of the time. This is always most of the time. Choose what you enjoy to eat. And if you are feeling at peace with food and food is just food for you, you might want to start gently incorporating, if this is appropriate for you, and it might not be appropriate for you for many reasons, but you might want to see if it feels good to you to include more fruit and vegetables in what you're eating. But really only if it's you enjoy what you enjoy, and your stability around your peace with food is very strong. All right. I hope that that makes sense. All right. What should I do if I'm enjoying the meal and I'm at a comfortable place of fullness? So I can stop, but I'm enjoying it and tastes really nice. So I could just eat more for the taste of it. What should I do? Okay. So I'm not the arbiter and the rule maker around what you should and shouldn't do, right? So I would say if you are really enjoying it and you're feeling comfortable, then by all means have some more, you know, and just stay connected with yourself, because you probably don't want to get to an uncomfortable place. Sometimes you might be enjoying it and you're eating in a really connected way, in the sense that you are really tasting it and knowing that you're enjoying it, and you're staying connected with your stomach. And you notice you start to get a bit too, you're just hitting that point of, okay, this is enough. You then have another choice to make. It's like, do I want to enjoy the taste more, but then start to feel uncomfortable? So, pleasure is still quite high, but comfort starts to go down. Like, where do I want to be there? Do I want to sort of meet in the middle where enjoyment hasn't started to go down? Because actually, when comfort starts to go down, you start to become more uncomfortable. Probably, if you really are staying connected, you also will start enjoying it less. So just stay attentive to what is going on for you. But there are no rules, right? If you still have the capacity for more food and you're enjoying it, then sure, go ahead and have more food. You have my permission, but you don't need it. All right. How do you deal with urges to buy all the sweet stuff when it's tempting you? Okay. Well, this is a tricky one. The first thing that's important is that you know that you can have what you want without feeling guilty. So that's the first piece. When I'm working with clients, I want to make sure that they know they can eat these different foods that they think are unhealthy or they think are bad for them. They've always tried to restrict in some way, that they know that they can really have them if they want them, when they want them. Because when you can do that, then you really get to a place where you can choose. So if you're not giving yourself that permission, then it's going to be really difficult to, like, walk past a shop and not feel drawn to going into that shop. You might not particularly be hungry. You might not be particularly wanting or needing, anything, or, it simply is a response. It's like, okay, when I walk past that shop, then the switch goes on, which is I go into the shop and buy something, which I then eat. It's like a conditioned response, right? It's a bit like Pavlov ringing the bell. And there are things that you can do to help yourself when you have those kinds of urges. But before you get to that, you really need to make sure that you aren't restricting yourself, that you do let yourself eat those sorts of foods. And all you're wanting to do is not just be at in a kind of state where it's hard to go somewhere without buying that thing, because then it doesn't feel like you are really in choice here, right? It feels like you're a bit like a puppet on a string. Something else is in charge of you. And what it is this conditioned response. I used to have that when I would, fill up the car with petrol. That would just be a thing for me. It's like, oh, fill up the car with petrol, go into the little thing, buy chocolate, and eat all the chocolate in the car before I get home. So that was something that I used to do. And that was really a conditioned response. But only after I was really solid with knowing that there's chocolate in the house, for example. So it's like, why do I need to buy chocolate? There is chocolate in the house. Why do I need to buy it now? And discerning for myself, well, is there a particular chocolate that isn't in the house that I really fancy and I really want that thing? Well, then, okay, maybe I want to go and buy that thing. But more often than not, for me, it wasn't about that. It was about this kind of automatic response. So, what do? Well, you need to surf the urge, really. And so you just notice to yourself how this feels in your body. So it's like, oh, this feels really unpleasant, this kind of yearning, this longing. And see if you can find where you feel it in your body. Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your tummy? Do you feel it in your throat? Where is that sensation of craving or that urge feeling? And just notice where it is in your body and how it feels, and ask yourself, is it really strong or is it, quite mild? And take a few breaths and see if you can just relax and let that feeling be there without acting on it. So just imagine, say you have, say, chicken pox, okay, and it's really itchy. But if you scratch the itch, it gets more itchy, and also you get scarring. So they really say don't scratch it. Even if it's itchy, you've got to try not to scratch it. So think about it in that way. It's like it's a really strong urge to scratch the itch. But can you just take some deep breaths and just notice, well, what does that actually feel like? Become really curious about it. And that will pass. That feeling will pass. It will subside. And the more you do that, the more you go, okay, I can walk past that shop. And I don't feel compelled to go in. That doesn't mean you shouldn't or you can't. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't eat, any of those things. It just means you are more in charge about when and how much of those things you're going to have. Because if you are not giving yourself the permission to have it, then probably when you do go in, you disconnect from your body and from your satisfaction. And maybe you just eat the whole thing. Not that that's a wrong thing, by the way, but you eat the whole thing without really being connected to, am I still enjoying this? Is it still as good as it was before? Is my enjoyment going down? Yeah, have I had enough of this? Maybe it's just then also a habit that when you buy that thing, you just eat the whole of that thing. Again, that's not to say that we shouldn't. You see, this is why it's quite nuanced and, not black and white. So I hope that that helps. If there are any more questions, do let me know. I'm happy to answer more questions. All right. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week. Do drop your questions into peacefuleating.co.uk/ask, and I will answer you next week. All right. Take care and have a great evening. Bye.